Taresco today for the month of October. This is kind of like right at the tail end of September. So I guess I'll do this first. I wanted to do a very special thank you live to Jennifer Lieberman for being my sponsor for the month of September. And October, I have 3 sponsors in front of this, but this is one of my first sponsors, and the great Paul Alleva. How you doing, buddy?
I do great. How are you doing? Glad to be a part of the show too. It's fantastic. The work you're doing is very cool stuff. I'm very happy for you.
Well, thank you. You know, it's kind of cool. Like I got a lot of really cool little surprises coming up in the month of October, and this is the first one. And I got some more things coming that are kind of big and cool and just different. And I got a crazy couple weeks. I got a really, really big, crazy couple weeks, but we'll see how it all plays out magically and go from there. So how's life treating you?
Life is treating me damn good, actually. Yeah. Things are really good. Kids are great. You know, that's always the plus. The wife's doing awesome, enjoying herself. And I'm writing and doing, hypnotizing people in the evening. So, I'm enjoying myself.
Nice. So you're just having a blast doing a little bit of everything. Well, you got like I don't usually start this way, but I think this is a good way to start for this. Golem is like coming out in a week, man.
Yeah, Tuesday, my big boy. Whew, so like almost 600 pages, Unfortunately, I gave all my hardcovers away recently. I wish I had one, but it's like that thick, It's a big boy.
So it's as thick as oatmeal. It can just literally like stop a bullet by itself.
Yes, you could definitely stop a bullet with that puppy.
That's cool. I mean, I've never written anything that big. I could imagine it. I could. It just seemed like I'm not there yet. I think it's just the kind of storyteller I am. I'm more like along the lines of, I love me Ray Bradbury. I love me Roger Zelazny. I love me Michael Moorcock. I like these small, compact, like big stories and it's like small packages kind of deal.
Understood.
But there's like something about like that giant, epic, like monster just ready to haunt you. And it's like you said, you're talking about Golem, so you're talking about a monster among monsters there, my friend.
In fact, it's my monster book, my horror monster book. So yeah, it had to be. It's when I first started writing it, I knew it was going to be a long book, just because the story that needed to be told was going to take that amount of time. So I was kind of prepared for it. Other books, no, I wasn't prepared because I write sci-fi too. So the Rose Volume 2 is coming out in December. That was 119,000 words. Gollum was 115, and then I wrote another horror novel, Jiggly Spot and the Zero Intellect, that is 150,000 words. They just keep getting bigger. But now I'm also writing a novella series. So I had to taper it down a little bit for the novella series. And that's like, kind of brings me through, after those puppies.
Yeah, no, it sounds to me like you just like writing. You just got a lot to say, man. Or you just got diarrhea. I thought you just got diarrhea at the keyboard. It's one or the other, at least, right? But
that I do, man. It's shitting out. It's definitely coming out, man. I feel hollow inside. I gotta get it out.
I feel so. I don't know if that's what you want to say, but hey, that's really cool. I mean,
I'm with you, man.
So I would ask this because. See, I feel like this is the like the model to go to, and that's like Stephen King, because when he was at like when he was really coming up, he was writing books that big, right? As he got older, I think his books have gotten a little smaller, but they're still like these ginormous, like big, towering stories. Is that like your role model there, or you just found yourself suddenly one day like, I got a lot to fucking say?
I do have a lot to say. However, he is a role model in that regard. It's you look at it, The Stand. Those friggin' they're colossal. So yeah, I've always wanted to write a big book like that, like a true book where it just continues and goes until the story is completely gone. It's all these twists and turns and caverns and all this other crap that you're going through. Yeah, bring it on. I do enjoy a good book, and writing them was fantastic.
So I'm just gonna say, just reading preferences. Was there like a particular King book that really grabbed you?
Well, The Shining is my favorite King book.
Okay, it's a good one. It's a good one.
It's fantastic. I consider it like a masterpiece. If you could call a book a masterpiece, I would say, yeah, that could probably be considered a masterpiece. It's phenomenal. It's psychological too, And it's one of those things, you know, it just keeps going on. The story keeps unfolding, one little tidbit after another. And it's like a slow burn, but it's so satisfying getting there while you're reading it. And then when you get to the end.
No, like for me, so for me, his Dark Tower stuff's my favorite stuff because I like that the books got bigger over time, but they also got like they had this like gravity to it, right? And like I said, to me, Wizard and Glass is the best book he ever wrote. That's just my opinion. Good, bad, or indifferent. Like that's the book. Like that's the book that made me go, oh yeah, like this is the kind of stuff I want. You know what I mean?
Yeah, kind of told you he's the man, dude. He could, I mean, he's diverse too. You know, he's got horror, he's got fantasy, and then you come out with a sweet little Green Mile or something like that. You know, Stand By Me was by him as well. You know, Shawshank Redemption is like it's pretty phenomenal. You know.
First off, this is Anita. Hey, Anita, how you doing? This is Paul.
Hello, Anita. How are you?
Yeah. So. No, it's one of those things where I look at it and just like, you know, I can respect the writer Stephen King. Not all his books are for me, but my favorite stuff with him is Dark Tower and his shorts. I think he's the perfect novel writer. Like novelist, just like he hits like the right beat. Whether it's Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption, which is really really good. Or Little Sisters of Illyria, which is another one of my favorite like little stories, or even Hearts in Atlantis is kind of fun too, you know.
Yeah, that they are. Over the last like couple decades, you know, his now I could kind of give or take, you know, whatever you want to do. But The Institute, which came out about 2 years ago now, to me was like kind of his return to form in a way, and I thought that book was the best he's written since. Probably, in my opinion, like Dreamcatcher, and I thought Dreamcatcher was phenomenal.
I'm 50-50 on Dreamcatcher. I think it's an interesting premise. I do think his recovery, because that was when he was getting hit by the car.
Yes.
Right. There was like a drug trippy kind of thing in the middle of that I wasn't sure that was purely his voice. Right. I thought when he. If you want to talk about like Dark Tower stuff aside, Duma Key was when I thought he was back to form because he was more like cognizant of his actions and his storytelling was just so. His prose is so clean. Like I think the one thing I really think about him is just his prose is so clean. It's like wow. I don't know if I'll ever get that good. Like he's put a lot of work into his prose, and you can really tell.
It's smooth.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like rolls off. It's like watching Santana play the guitar. You know, the fingers are like butter. It's just smooth talking.
Yeah, no, that is like exactly how I feel with him. Like, I don't like everything he does, but the stuff that I think he's really good, and he's undeniable. Like even the stuff I don't like, it's technically amazing. Right? That's just how I look at him. But like, because again, you're talking about these big novels. So again, like you have a lot to say, obviously, or else you wouldn't be writing a story this big. But did you start like smaller, or did you always just go big?
No, like with The Rose, right? So The Rose was supposed to be a short story. The story was going to be like 3,500 words, and that was it. And then when I was writing, it just kept unfolding and unfolding. And The Rose Volume 1 is 95,000 words. And then with Jiggly Spot was supposed to be a novella, and then it ended up being the biggest book that I have written so far, 150,000 words. So with Gollem was planned. I knew it was going to be a long novel. I wanted it to be a long novel because it's my monster book, you know. So I knew that was going to be a long novel. With the other ones, no, definitely not.
You just like going big, man. That's just your thing.
It's coming out, so
let
it out. Better out than in, I always say.
Well, yeah, absolutely. So I guess this is going to be the weirdest question I think I've ever asked an author.
Okay.
Do you ever feel like a book is too big?
Do I ever feel like a book is too big? No. I do not. I don't. You know, if what book would be considered too big?
Well, I just think like okay, so like really big books I've read, like I'm thinking of stuff like Sacagawea, like Anna Lee Waldo's Sacagawea. It's a ginormous book. Interesting because it's got some real historical like stuff with Lewis and Clark and her story of abuse by in that is like haunting. But it's a big one. Consequently, like again, something just as big, but I think is a better told story is Susanna Clark's Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which I think is a phenomenal story. I think that again, in terms of word count, a story can be as big as it needs to be. But I'd also I think it's a tricky balance because I think there's a tendency like the story if it's that big has to be worth that size. You know what I mean? Because that is like again, or another good example, Brandon Sanderson. Like you see his Stormlight Archive books, they're like, oh my gosh, each one of them is a weapon of mass destruction.
Yeah.
Is it worth it? Like when I dive in, how long am I going to be in there? You know what I mean? Right?
It's a commitment. That's a definite.
That's it, right? So I mean, I think part of the reason why I like I said, the size of story I write is because it's not a huge commitment. It's a commitment, but it's not like you still get a meal, but it's not like a big T-bone steak. It's just like I'm like a soup, right? A really good soup. If that makes sense, right? So it fills you up, but it's not gonna be like it's not gonna take a while to digest, right? So, but it's interesting because it's just like again, if the story's there, man, it don't matter how big it is, right? But it's just one of those things where just like maybe it's just me, I just can't fathom that big a story yet. Maybe I'm thinking too small.
Understood. It's like how many words does it take to tell the story? And as you're writing, like with Jiggly Spot or the Rose, I'm writing and I'm like, all right, this is going to wind up being, I still have all this to go through. So this is going to wind up being more than a novella or more than a short story. It's going to be a novella now. And then I continue writing, the story's unfolding. It takes more words to tell this story. Keep writing. You want to make sure the story is told. And I think a lot of that is with the characters themselves, and the book itself wants to be told, right? It's like I always look at my characters like they're beings, actually living beings in another dimension who are sending me brain signals to write their story, and they want this story to be told. And it just keeps unfolding and unfolding and unfolding. And I get surprised because something happens in the story that I wasn't even expecting myself. And I love that. And it kind of takes it to another level or another direction. And I got to formulate everything and calculate everything and pull it all together. And that's going to take more words to get it done. So I definitely want the story to be coherent as much as possible and to get it out, however many words it takes, I'm going to write it.
Fair enough. So I'm going to ask this then. So are you like a plotter, pantser, or planter?
Planter. All right. So this is what I do, right? I'll get the thought of the story will pop into my head, whatever that is. Usually it's an emotion and a theme, some sort of scene pops into my head. And then, okay, so what am I doing with that information, right? So I'll keep it in my head and it'll formulate, it'll germinate, and I'll keep coming back to it. And then what I'll start doing is when I'm getting close to writing, I'll start writing notes and sending myself emails, right? So idea will pop in my head, send myself an email, and I keep it in a folder in my email with the title of the book, all right? And then I take those, I get up in the morning and I go into my folder and I take it and I put it into a Word document. And then I go to sit down and write. And I never look at the Word document or the emails.
Well, I that actually makes sense to me because as weird as that sounds, like it's important to have a plan. Because if you get lost, you have that plan to kind of look at, you know what I mean? So it's like, okay, where I took this left turn here. I look at my list notes and dialogue. I didn't go here. Why am I going here? Right? And then you have this like moment of, okay, this was my plan and this is where I'm going. So the first question that you ask yourself is where I'm going important to the story? So it's a flow chart. If it's no, you cut that. You just don't worry about it. You just leave that be. If the answer is yes, okay, then comes the second question. Can I fit it back into my master plan, or do I just burn the plan? Right? Sometimes You can do both. You burn a piece of the planet, you keep some
Mhm.
planet that will still work with it. Sometimes you just like, fuck it. I'm not gonna even. I'm not even gonna look back. Right.
It's too funny. That's right. You
Right.
know, yeah, when those little things come about, yes, all right. Is it part of the master plan? And if it's not part of the master plan, then you have an option. Do I change the master plan? And then no, I love my master plan, so I need to get rid of this. Or you know what, that master plan could go screw itself. Let's go this direction. Seems like it's going a better way.
Yeah, exactly. Like we don't really have the. We think we're in control of our stories. That's not the case.
No, it's
No,
definitely not. You
no.
know, I
I mean,
always
you have an
say,
idea. Like you have an idea where it's going, right? But you don't actually like know. And
that's
then,
right. And I don't want to know. I want to be just as surprised as the reader.
and
I
that's
think that makes for, as a writer, that to me makes for a better writing experience for me when I don't necessarily 100% know where everything is going. If I think Stephen King said it himself, no surprise in the writer, no surprise in the reader. Could have been someone else. I always go Stephen King. There's a lot of profound shit.
I just figured out something out about you when you said that. And here's what I figured out about you. You like discovery. You like
Yeah.
exploring concepts and kind of just seeing where they take you. And that's kind of a big part of who you are as a person because I do write for the similar reason. Sometimes I find myself like trying to find that surprise. And then sometimes and because you know what? Like right this minute, I'm at the point where I figured out how to put to sleep a dragon that had not ever slept, and its shadow just kind of gets popping heads, just come up everywhere. And every time he had a new popping head, it was a different personality. He'd been awake for so long, his brain was just so fractured. He was so exhausted. So, right. So
Understood. Yes, no, agreed, 100%. I love the surprises, and I like it when the story takes on a new context or in a different direction, and just go with it. It's meant to be there for a reason. Whether it's your characters or whatever, your subconscious mind, different beings from the cosmos, whatever the hell it is, it's meant to go there. There's a reason why it's happening, so maybe explore it a little bit more. At least give it a couple second thoughts.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and that's the thing, right? Like that's like we all go in this. I mean, I like knowing where, like I said, it's good to have a plan because you want to have at least an idea where you think it's going to go. Because if you
Right.
don't get lost, if you don't have like an issue or a plan or anything like that, it's one of those situations where you're like, oh shit, what do I do? Because that's when you get lost writing a big story. Is just like,
Yes.
right, I don't know where I'm going and I don't know how to get there. What the fuck? Whereas if you at least have a plan, it's like, well, this is my map. It
Mhm.
might be worthless in the long run, but damn it, I had a plan, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
It's like with The Rose Volume 1. I know where Volume 3 is going to end, right? And it's the same exact ending that was in the short story that I was planning out to begin with. It just took longer words to get there. 3 books, not 3,500 words, but it's just taking longer to get there. And one hell of a friggin' fun journey. I will say that.
I hope I don't curse you with this story. I hope I don't. So I'm so if I like so here's the thing. When Robert Jordan was asked how long Wheel of Time series was, he
Mhm.
said $3.
3?
So just to give you an idea where the book series ended, the book series is about $15. So it went from 3 to 15, and unfortunately, he never lived to finish the series. He had Brandon Sanderson finished. He wrote parts of the end of the last 3 books, but it was Brandon Sanderson that did the task of putting together the last piece.
Putting everything together. Damn.
Right. So what happened was every time he'd write, he finishes The Dragon Reborn. It's like, well, he's got this great story. I mean, he's kind of started, but he didn't feel like it was over.
Yeah.
Then you get to the Shadow. Like my favorite book in that series is Shadow Rising. It's just so well done. Like Shadow Rising, Fires I think are the best 2 books in that series, and so amazing. But you get to that, you're like, well, this don't feel like the end. How much go? 3 more books.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You get to 6, 7, 8. When you get to 7, you're like, okay, that was a tiny ass book. Right? Well, like, come on, like, what's 8 gonna do? And then you get to 8, you're like, okay, how many more? 3 more books. 9.
Keep going. Hey,
You
you never
asked,
know, right? It's,
yeah,
when you're writing it, the story could go as long as it needs to go. And when you're a writer and you're in the mix of it and you're loving that story and there's more story to tell, you want to tell those stories. You don't want it to, but going into it, yeah, it was just 3 books, that's it. And then, like you said, 15 books later,
yeah.
there, so
I'm
as
trying not
long
to
as you're
curse
having
you.
fun and enjoying it.
Yeah, I'm
Sorry.
trying not to curse you. I hope that is. I mean, it's
Uh,
kind of a curse, but it's like it's also kind of like. I mean, also, I mean, it's a that series is a testament because there are some things that were planned from the beginning to
yes.
the very end, and it was an incredible journey the whole way through it. So I can applaud masterful storytelling from the very beginning. Whereas, like the Dark Tower, you kind of you figured out that Stephen King, when he wrote the Dark Tower, he didn't know where he was going until he got to like the third book. Like when he
Yeah.
got to the third book, he's like, okay, I have found this story where it's going, and I'm going to slowly get there, right? Um, but first two, you can kind of how he was just kind of winging it.
Just
Yeah,
going with it.
yeah. No, it is a
Every
good
time
curse.
you just,
I love the Wheel of Time series. The Wheel of Time series is my second favorite series of all time. The first one is The Dark Tower, right?
Mhm.
Number 3 is Harry Potter, although that one's not as popular anymore as it once was due to J.K. Rowling herself.
Yeah.
But
Fact.
but good books are good books. Bottom line
I
is that.
know. I just bought my 10-year-old his first Harry Potter, so hoping he gets into it. It will be good.
Oh, it's a good series. Like
Yes,
it's
fantastic.
yeah. My favorite stuff from when I was a kid was C.S. Lewis's Narnia series, which is just like still I think it's gold to this day. Um, and then I got into like big weird Ray Bradbury stuff, and then I got into like and then I discovered Harry Potter when I was like a young adult, like a young man,
Gotcha.
not a kid, and it's like I still like kids books even to this day. I haven't outgrown them, so I don't know. Maybe that just says I'm 12 at heart.
Hey, be young at heart, man. It's a good way to
Yeah,
go. But
yeah.
with just to let you know, it's not too much of a curse because I do plan it. So the Rose Volume 3 will come out next year, and then what happens with that series is it's going to jump into another series called the Indigo Trials, which takes place about 10 to 15 years after the Rose. And that's a trilogy. And then I have the Robin Winter trilogy. Robin Winter is he's the leader of the mysterious human rebellion in the Rose. And he has his own book series called Winter. It's a time travel series. And that is because in the book, The Rose, it begins at the end of World War III. Treaty is signed, it's done. Robin Winter is going to take you through all of time, all the way up until World War III itself. That's going to be a colossal book.
It sounds
And
like
that book in itself, in my mind, right, what I want to do, right, is I want to write 2 books with Robin Winter, but each book contains 3 books in and of itself. So you're talking like probably what, 1,000 pages per book? That's a book.
well. So I'm a Michael Moorcock too, so I actually have it here. I saw it at Value Village, and I just had to pick it up. Is the old Hawk Moon like graphic, like the big omnibus novel? Because it's such a pretty cover. Also, number one and number two, it's just a big ass book and
Yeah.
it's really really freaking cool. Like you have this evil empire, you got the jewel in the skull. You talk about the Mad God's amulet, and it's about a man but fights for his
Mhm.
freedom in the first book, and then is now on and then he's fighting his own kind of his own destiny for the whole run. And it's like it's such a cool book, and it looks so pretty that it's just
Yeah.
like, uh yeah. There's like again, there is something. If the story is right, man, a book can be as big as it wants,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah,
So
it's when you're writing a book like that, you got to catch the reader's attention. You got to maintain the reader's, attention. I mean, if you're going 1,000-page book, when they're at page 600 and something, is the book still entertaining? You got to keep it entertaining. But great writer could accomplish that without a problem.
So you mentioned Golem. So I'm going to ask this: is it the Jewish concept of a golem, or like the alchemic golem?
It is all right. So it is Jewish folklore with the Gollum, right? However, I made a lot of changes and switches. So in the novel, it's the statue that's created is made of marble. It's not made of clay. And it is a demon that gets incarnated into the statue. So all of that is there. So, it is definitely very like that. Although I'm kind of putting my own twist on it too. He is coming and he is, supposed to help out the person that, brought him to life in this novel. And then he wreaks havoc on society, destroys society. That's his main goal, is to bathe the human race in darkness. So that part of it, which from the silent horror film, which I love, Gollum, the silent horror film, which is when the idea kind of popped into my head. That, and then Pygmalion's story as well. I've always been fascinated with that mythology of the sculptor, the artist, loving his creation so much he brings it to life. So I have a little bit of artistry in there too. The person who brings them to life, her name is Alina Francone, and she is an artist and sculptor. Just went through some tragedies with her parents, and then just broke up with her fiance, lost her child, and she is putting all her love and heart into this statue. Unbeknownst to her, she's incarnating a demon into the statue. Ha!
I don't know what that says about her romantic life when it actually like, oh, my love goes on, and then it creates this giant monster. It's like, maybe there's some issues that need to be worked out. I don't know. I don't judge. I just bring this up because like golems are fascinating, because if you were to look at like the modern day golem, you can make the argument that that's a robot, right? You know what I mean? You make that argument, and it's an interesting one, right? And so it's like you almost look at the Jewish concept of the golem. It's a robot with a program that's kind of running things through. So like the idea of it being a demon isn't that far fetched, because if you look at like, again, if you look at like computer, like robot stuff, computer code stuff, we're talking about daemons. We talk about like putting a program in. Like you is the same thing. Like she puts a note into the golem and it kind of comes to life.
Say that again.
Does she put a note into the golem and it comes to life, or does it just come to life on its own?
I can't say that.
Okay.
Spoiler, right? I can't say that. It's kind of a mystery of how he came to life, and what the protagonist Alina is kind of clinging to him, in a way. But there's a whole reason and a whole mythology that I kind of like created on my own of where he's coming from, how he's doing that. There's demons in a far off planet, gel-like planet, across the universe, and he's bringing in these minions from this demonic planet.
So he's trying to take over the world.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, it sounds like. Listen, why else would you have troops? You wouldn't just bring troops for the sake of like, hey, I need. No, you're like, I'm trying to set up my operations, guys. This is kind of my happy world.
Exactly, and he's using. So the black-eyed kids are in this book too, and those are his minions.
So he's like a mobster.
You could say he's a mobster demon, man. I love it.
Hey man, like we look, you gotta look at it kind of like that. I always look at it kind of like this, right? So if you're a ruler, and you have minions, and you're kind of like this nefarious gang, right? It's almost kind of like a mob or a gang mentality. It has to be, because the guy in charge is usually the most ruthless. It's not necessarily the biggest or the strongest, but it's the most ruthless. One of my favorite movies is 3:10 to Yuma, and my favorite thing, like the modern one, my favorite line in there is when Russell Crowe says, like, dude, I'm not a good guy. I'm the meanest of the. These guys are nasty and mean and crooked bunch, but I'm the nastiest, meanest, and crooked of them all. That's why I'm in charge, right? Because they are all scared of me, not the other way around. Right, I'm not this good guy. I'm nice and people like me. I use that to take advantage, and it's just like, yeah, he is a monster, right? So
yes, exactly. Yeah, Gollum is definitely the meanest son of a bitch out there. Although one of his minion kids named Sophia is definitely a force to be reckoned with. I will say that. Let's just put it this way: she likes to eat hearts.
Oof.
Yeah.
There's some symbology.
What's funny is, for some reason, I think I like eating hearts, because they even got alien vampires in the Rose. They like to eat hearts too, So I went through this whole heart eating phase of my life.
I'm just curious. Are you a Pulp fan by any chance?
Poe fan?
Pulp.
Pulp.
No.
No.
Something. Okay.
Pulp Fiction. Yes.
Yeah.
You were talking about a guy or a writer
No,
name.
no,
Yes, of course, Pulp Fiction. Yes.
Yeah, because that kind of reminds me a little bit of Vampirella. Like I have a soft spot for that character. He's a scantily clad vampire from like another planet.
Yes, I do. And you have a soft spot for the vampire from the other planet.
Yeah, I do. Well,
it's funny.
Because the thing is, when she's written well, she's great. When she's written bad, she's kind of like a guilty pleasure, but like in a good way, right? Just like one of those.
Yeah.
It's like I like it. It's kind of dirty, but I like it, right? You know, it's just one of those things where you just like, but that's what it kind of reminds me. Like you seem to have a fascination with the monsters of our past. You kind of like just remake them in your own way. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yes. Yeah. I don't like keeping with the traditional folklore or whatever is out there. You know, like exactly what he said. Take it, make it my own, make it something special, something crazy that's out there, kind of keep the basic foundation of what's there and then blow it up.
So you say actually you answered the question is say like what part, like do you keep parts of the story of like the classic concept and kind of remake them in your own image, right? Yes. So so you look at something and you're like, okay, what do I like about this? And then you kind of go like, okay, how can I make this mine? Is that accurate?
Yes, 100%. Like when the night Gollum is born, you know, there's a way that he's born. And one of those ways is that have to happen is Alina has to blow her breath into his lungs in order for him to come to life, you know? The classic, go back to the Bible, Adam and Eve story, you know, blow the air and it brings him life. And then spiritual philosophies think that the soul enters the body on the body's first breath out of the womb, right? So you take a breath, you're out of the womb, and that's when the soul enters. So kind of like that concept as well, blowing the air into there to make the soul appear.
So I'm just like, you don't have to answer if it's too personal of a question, but are you Jewish? Because you do sound like you have a really big familiarity with at least some of that for sure.
A little bit, you know. I have some weird indulgences, you know. I'll study theology, I'll study spirituality, you know, I'll study quantum physics as well, you know. So I enjoy all those types of concepts. So, but I'm not Jewish.
No, you sound like you have a fascination with where we come from.
Gotcha. Yeah, I do. I have a fascination with all things that are folklore and mythology.
Yeah. So what's your favorite story?
Say again?
What's your favorite story from mythology?
That is a good question. Wow, I've never even thought about that. I mean, they're all just fantastic, but I don't know. I'm going to go with the Pygmalion story because it's on my mind right now, and that'll probably change next year. You know, as I'm writing something else and putting mythology into it.
So for me, there are two. I love the Tower Babble as a concept. I really love.
Good one.
I love it. I think the concept there is a very real one. If you really sit there and think about it today, we have the keyboard, right? So if you really sit there and think about it, we have one language right now, and the keyboard is what made that possible. If it wasn't for the keyboard on the computer, right, we wouldn't have this universal thing. But if you look at it all over the world, people are learning English. English is becoming like a big language. The only language that's as big as that is Mandarin, right? So it's either one or the other. So I mean, that is the majority of language. I mean, there's Arabic, and there's Hindi, but if you really sit there and think about it, like the reason why English is a universal language is because, digitally speaking, the keyboard is enough characters for English. Right? If you looked at some of the older languages, there just would be too much there. But English is like perfect, you know what I mean?
That it is. That's good. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Put that into a book.
Yeah. No, it just again, you look at little things like that and you go, oh, I could see how this could happen. You have a universal script, and that's what this is. And then another one I really enjoy. I do enjoy the story of Pandora's box. Because
that's funny.
Because
that's funny. I should have said Pandora's box. So because that's in Gollum as well.
Yeah.
There's a little tidbit about Pandora in there, so you'll read that part and you'll be
Well,
appreciative of what I put in there.
well, Alice in Wonderland is a retelling of Pandora. I figured that out, and when I figured that out, I was able to mash it up because it just comes at it from a different angle. Pandora's curiosity opens this box and unleashes all the evils, and she's punished. Alice's curiosity takes a right rabbit down the rabbit hole, but if you really sit there and think about it, it's the same story. Curiosity, go down that path, boom,
Yeah.
right?
Nice.
So,
I like it. I like the
well,
relation. Yeah,
yeah,
you'll see Pandora in there when the big reveal happens, right? In the Gollum story, and when Alina discovers everything that's Gollum has been doing and where he comes from, and this curse that has happened, and the curse is part of Pandora as well, and it goes into even more in depth of what the box actually was and how how it worked, and Baphomet and Gollum, and thousands of years ago. So.
yeah, you're definitely into the Jewish stuff for sure. Wow. Okay, that's really
That
cool.
I am. That I am. What's
Yeah.
funny is my son studies theology, and he's been studying Jewish folklore for probably a while now. So he's been talking to me too about things like that, Jewish folklore. And he wants
Well,
to go. He's in school for theology. Wants to be a teacher, a professor. So
neat.
that's badass,
Neat. That's what they need.
right?
Well, I actually I saw if you're on talk like this, me stumbling onto like Jewish folklore by accident when I was doing my Alice research because I'm not going to spoil it. If you know who the Statue of Liberty actually is in Greek mythology, you know who or at least one of the villains in my Alice story is. If you know that, here's the Jewish part though. If you look from up down, from top down, you'll see the statues in this like 11 pointed figure, like shape. If you look up that shape in Kabbalah, it's actually an unclean, arcane thing, right?
Okay.
That's actually what it means. That's what it actually means. And it was just like the United States, like, well, the United States to me is very fascinating because if you look at what they profess to being a Christian culture, but if you look at statues, you look at their like their text, the things that are up and visible and stuff, it's either Greek, Roman, or occult. Where they're just all that there's just 1, 2, or 3. So it makes one ask when you look at the story of the United States of America, what do they actually truly worship? Because if you look underneath the nose, it's like they have all kinds of iconography everywhere, and it's like 1, 2, or 3. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm with you. It's a lot of sinister stuff underneath the folds.
Always. Like so, like in terms of like stories everywhere, I'm always fascinated with the fact that I can go outside, I can look outside, I can look at billboards and everything around. It's like the whole idea of logos, the Greek logos. It's everywhere, and there's everything you see around you almost has like multiple meanings, and we ignore it partly because of just the sheer volume of noise. Right? You go down the street, you walk down the street, you'll see traffic, you'll see billboards, you'll see logos for stores, you'll see. Pardon me. You're just getting bombarded so much by just everything you see. It's almost like you're getting nothing but messages around you, and stories are told around you all the time. And it's fascinating because if you look at it from that perspective, it's like something as simple as the Starbucks thing logo. It's got it. There's a guy that's coming in and inviting you into the place. It's like that's an interesting. Like we have all this kind of symbolism all around us, and it's like on one hand you can drive yourself absolutely nuts because some of it is just something go buy my shit, but another part of it is just like right. Another part of it is just like it's very interesting that we draw a lot along the same stories, and we're constantly retelling them in brand new ways, even in our commercials. It's an incredibly fascinating thing.
It's a pattern. It's a repeating, continuous pattern of just swirling energy like that, constantly throughout the entire universe. Just repeating patterns.
Yeah. It's just it's a fascinating thing. It's like we live in an interesting world. Even as crazy a time as this is, it's an interesting world.
Always. That is a definite fact. And most people are just on their phones and oblivious to everything else that is going around them with that symbology that exists, you know?
Mhm.
So it takes a interesting or inquisitive or mind to actually say, what does that actually mean? Let me look that up. Let me tumble down that rabbit hole.
Well, I think at some point you have to, at least a little bit, because again, we're talking like storytelling is when we sit there, like stories are about who we are, where we come from, why we're here. And I don't know a single person at some point. I don't want to meet the person, to put it to you this way, that hasn't at least asked one of those questions at some point along the journey. Right? If I meet someone that incurious, I think I just run screaming the other way. So I don't know how you can be that oblivious.
Right. The basic questions have been asked since the dawn of
Yeah.
civilization. You know, you should ask these questions. What's the purpose of life? What's the meaning of life? You know,
Yeah,
all that good
absolutely.
fun stuff.
Yeah. So you go like at some point the big question comes to you at some point, and you have to look. Now you can get lost looking at it, and there's a real danger to that to some degree because life is happening around you no matter what. But at the same time, yeah, like you should look at the patterns around you.
Yeah.
Kind of see like what they are, and you'll have an understanding of at least how we got here, and to some extent where we're going.
Agree. 100% agree.
Yeah.
It's a great indulgence. It's a fun indulgence too.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
I like it. I would hope other people like it too.
Nothing wrong with being curious. Nothing wrong with being curious. So again, so since you're talking about stories bringing your story to life, so I guess I'm going to ask this is going to be like the biggest head question. How do you believe your stories are to be?
How real do I believe they are? I believe they are 100% real. You know, I believe they are existing in another dimension. You know, I'm just here. Like I said before, I'm getting like signals. You know, sometimes when I'm writing, I feel like I'm just possessed. You know, something else is like, you know, moving my hands, my fingers across the page, and I'm actually reading the story that somebody else has written. You know, that these characters have actually written on their own. I'm sure they exist somewhere in some alternate universe, on some other planet, maybe in a different dimension or a different parallel universe or something like that. It's created, so they're there. Which is kind of scary when you're writing horror novels.
Kind of, yeah.
Right?
So, an interesting thought then. So, then I guess the interesting big thought, I guess, that where we ultimately are going, then we'll go back around and start, talk about your stuff and promoting your shit, is, I remember one of my favorite, stories is about a man dreaming about being a butterfly. And when he wakes up, he asks himself this question: am I a man that dreamed of a butterfly, or am I a butterfly that dreams of a man?
Yeah.
Right. And it's interesting because again, like maybe the biggest question we are going back to, like, do you believe your stories are real, is what is real?
Yeah.
I think in a world of knowledge is at our fingertips. If I want to look something up, whether I want to look up the mythology of where the Statue of Liberty comes from, if I want to look up how to make iodine, or if I want to look up the best recipe for a chocolate cake, if I want to look up the greatest comic book of all time, right? Mm-hmm. Whatever I want to look up, I can find answers, right? Whether they're accepted or not, that's another issue, but I can find answers just about any question I want to ask if I'm willing to look. So knowledge isn't really the question we have today. It's what we use it for and what makes things real. Because we want to feel whatever it is we're feeling. Again, I think it's why we tell stories, is we want to feel. We want to show what we feel or express to somebody else. But in that process, I think we're asking some of the same questions over: who are we, where we come from, where we're going, why are we here, and what are we doing, right? Like that. I mean,
where is this going? What's the final end game? How do human beings evolve? That's a great question, right? Where are we going with evolution for the whole species? Where is that heading? What are we going to look like if we're still here 1,000 years from now, right? If human beings still exist 1,000 years from now, are we still going to look the exact same? Are we still going to think the exact same? Is it going to be the same old, same old? It seems like the way things are, sooner or later, it's either destruction or utopia. It's like, which way are we going? And evolution, how are we going to evolve whether one of those two things happen?
Well, I guess we're going down the big thought train here. I had a realization about 3 days ago on my podcast when I was interviewing somebody, and I realized kind of part of what I think is going on right now. It occurred to me that the system as we know it, by and large, is not necessary anymore. You and I are having a conversation across our distances, wherever we're at.
Yeah.
So the first question is, what is a community today? A community could literally be people we link on the internet from point to point to point to point.
Mm-hmm.
And all the while, it's as valid as living in a city, right? You look at cryptocurrency. Well, now you don't need a bank because now you have a cryptocurrency that you need, right? You have values you can basically acquire through whatever group you meet and have develop a consensus with. That can be far and wide. You can come together and pool resources across whatever this divide is. You have a delivery system. You have the ability to do things cheaply, which means you don't need government as we know it. You still need a military, but not to the degree we have it today, right? Mm-hmm. You have the ability to meet, inquire, and trade across vast distances. So resources actually aren't as that big of a problem, right? It's not impossible anyway. It's not a problem that can't be over because technology has made these things cheap. So I think one of the things that's actually happening today is one of the reasons we're seeing this big upheaval, these big changes, good, bad, or indifferent, is we are coming to the point where a lot of the things we have today, we don't need as we needed them in the past. So,
agreed.
Yeah. So the question is, who do we want to become going forward? Part of me thinks what's going on with the governments of the world today is I think they've realized that they, as they know it, are kind of becoming extinct. You don't need a big government anymore. It can be a very tiny, tiny thing, and you can run vast distances, right? Mm-hmm. So what we're seeing here is I think we're coming to the end of, I guess, the industrial age or the industrial age, and we're going into something else. And I think the question of what that something else is up to us for the next 2 or 3 years. And what we're going to be seeing for the next 2 to 3 years is going to be the destruction of the old system, whenever that old system was, and we're going to see a building of something new. Now, what that looks like at the end, who knows? I think that's going to be up to us. It's going to be up to us coming to a consensus, values, and just, a meeting of the minds. Hopefully not a meeting of fists, but a meeting of minds. And we can create something brand new. It could be a renaissance, or it could be a nightmare. But I think that's up to us and the choices we make. I think the key is, where is our basis of decisions coming from? If they're coming from joy, love, kindness, decency, the world will be a much better place. If they're coming from fear, the basis of fear, anger, isolation, then the world we're going to create is going to be a nastier place. And I think that's the battle of the next few years.
Agreed, 100%. And there's a lot of fear out there, and fear carries its own vibration. They did. This is a few decades ago. There was in Washington D.C. Crime is bad in Washington D.C. And these people, I forget how many there were. I think a couple hundred maybe. And what they did is they did a meditation for 3 days, right? And that meditation, during that meditation, even for a period of time after, crime went way down, plummeted. That's because energy, and we're all made of energy. Everything is energy. Between me and you, we're talking right here. This is energy. It's signals, invisible signals that I just call another dimension anyway. Wave signals that are going out there that we don't see, but we're part of that. And when we have a peaceful vibration, because we're vibrating at our own frequency, and people come together with that peaceful vibration, exactly what you're saying, great and beautiful things happen. But when you institute fear, compounded fear, one time, day after day after day, that affects people. It's a very low vibration. Fear operates at like 100 to 200 hertz, whereas like joy, gratitude, all those things operated between 400 and 700 hertz, right? And that's the higher vibration that we're all trying to attain. That's better for us. It's better for society. But if that fear keeps getting pumped out there, we're kind of fucked, for lack of a better word. People are afraid. They don't want to leave their homes. They don't want to go anywhere. They're afraid to live. That's not good. It's not good at all. They're afraid to die. I'm not afraid of death. I'm afraid not to live fully, to my fullest extent. I want to experience everything in life. There's this philosophy out there that we're spiritual beings having a human experience. If that's true, I want to have the greatest human experience that ever existed. I've had a great one so far. Don't get me wrong. I had to do a lot of changes, but I want to continue that, and I want my kids to grow up in a society that is more love, joy, gratitude type of base than fear. I tell in my private practice, I tell my patients all the time, first of all, I tell them don't watch just one network, right? News network. If you're going to watch them, if you're going to watch the news, watch them all. But my opinion is shut off the news, get a little bit tidbit here and there, because you do need to know what the hell is going on in the world. Always do your own research. But that fear is just being pumped out of the TV constantly on a 24/7 basis, and you see it. It's disgusting what's going on out there. You get involved in those posts that people put out there, and one person says their opinion, and then you'll get a whole slew of people just going after that person time and time and time again. They don't fucking stop. If you're going at a person like that, you're just adding to that fear vibration. You're not doing anything good. You need to take a different approach, right? And then it's up to that person to, if somebody says something, you could ask them a point blank question. Can you give us more information about what you're talking about, right? Kind of not like a prove it mentality, but give us more basic information where we could kind of divulge that information ourselves and research it if we want to, right? But don't just feed into the fear narrative of hate and disgust towards other human beings. That's where we're losing our battle of humanity.
Right this minute. Yes. I think it's going to be interesting, like I said, the next couple of years, what happens. I'm hoping that it will eventually shift the other way. There is a what I call a balance, is that you'll tend to eventually hit a what I call it like a come to Jesus moment of there's a point where fear just loses its power, right? You can't stay afraid forever. There just comes a point where you look at the dragon for whatever it is, and you just recognize, like, I can't stay afraid of the dragon forever. You have to at some point confront it, no matter how big and scary it is.
That's right.
You gotta face the dragon. I realized this about my writing is, so the story I think that impacted me the most about that whole concept was, believe it or not, Terry Pratchett. He wrote a book called Sorcery, or Eric, right? So the part that I really love, again, this stuck with me more than anything else he's written. He's written some great things. Like his death jokes are the other things that have stuck with me throughout the years. But the most profound thing I ever thought he said was in that book, and that was when the dragon won. And people were doing these terrible things to each other just to appease the dragon because they were terrified of the dragon. And it occurs, like, people in times of great fear, great stress, will do terrible things to each other in the name of that fear. And when you see it express itself in all kinds of ways, eventually, though, fear fades, right? Because what happens is you just come face to face with your own dragon. It's like, you know what? I cannot live like this anymore. I have to want more. We all are built that way. So it's just when that moment comes for each person, and it's different for everybody. You just have a wake up call that one day you just wake up and you just realize that this is wrong. I'm doing it wrong. And we all have it, right? Mine was about a month ago. After everything going on, and I had a moment. I woke up and I just looked around and I said, "This is all wrong." Now I might be wrong. Now here's the other thing too. I gotta acknowledge this. I might be the crazy one, but that all said, if I am the crazy one, I'm not scared anymore, and that's a very different thing. We all have that moment where we have to look at our fears and go, you know what? What will be, and then the fear just dies, and then you slay that dragon, or
because you're not giving it power anymore.
Exactly.
You know, you took away all its power. You took your power back. Is what happened. You know, and yeah, I hope people do start realizing that. And I think that is starting to happen. You know, hopefully. You know, it's pretty friggin' bad out there, though. You know, that is a definite fact. I do see a lot of healing, right? Especially in my practice and, you know, my line of work in psychology, I see a lot of healing. I see it with my patients. I hear what they have to say to me too about people that they know and the struggles that are going on out there. And I see a lot of healing. So while there's this fear base is going on over here, there's a whole lot of healing going on out there as well, and a lot of gratitude and a lot of joy. So that vibration is going on out there too. I'm just hoping that keeps, you know, you got two beasts to feed at the moment, you know.
Well, what's going to happen? This is the nature of the beast, right? I like the nature of the beast is as fear kind of grows, so too will. It's weird in those dark places. When in my own personal struggles with my own inner demons, my own struggles. In my darkest places, I found myself at my strongest. Not because I was strong, but because I was so vulnerable, right? And it forced me to go beyond those comfort zone things that I would become accustomed to. And suddenly I was this very different person because I no longer was stuck in this little pond. I became something bigger. Right. And every step I take in the most uncomfortable of places, whether it's I teach myself how to draw, whether I do an audiobook, whether I, you know, like freelancer me year one, freelancer me year two, the biggest difference. First year, oh, what if I fail was in the back of my head so very much. This year it's gone. It doesn't exist at all because it's like there's gonna be months like this month was last month was a hard month, didn't make any money. Next month, that's not the case. It's the opposite. I have proven to myself in this last 4 months that I can make a living being creative. I have proven that to myself. Now it's like, how big can I go in this time? That's really the only question I have, right? And even this is probably not going to encourage. Like I said, I've mentioned this in a few other podcasts recently. There are no rules. You're probably going to see a little bit more of that with me as the years go by, and I'm going to apologize for that a little bit now. But it's one of those things. I just recognize. I mean, there is a part of me that just is like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And I'm going to live with the consequences, whatever those are. I'm an adult. But that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to play by the rules that the people play. And that doesn't make me above the rules. Quite the contrary. It just means I'm willing to take certain risks, bigger risk in something.
Nice.
So that sounds crazy maybe to some people listening to this, but
no, you got to do it. You know, I always say the only limits there are on the universe are the ones you place on yourself. So to have no limits, go, just keep going, skyrocket to the friggin' middle of the Milky Way galaxy if you want to. Anything could be accomplished. So go out there and buck up and first of all enjoy the ride. Be grateful for it. Be joyous. And there are no limits whatsoever out there. You can accomplish anything. You do anything. I don't play by the rules. I call myself a peaceful anarchist, right? So I'm here to bring peace, but I'm going to tell you to go fuck your rules. I'm not into rules, so don't place rules on me.
Civil disobedience is going to be the way of things for the next few years. You can see it coming. You can see it coming. But that all said, it's more. I'm going to put this very, 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 very nicely and delicately. I think what's happened right now is because of the nature of the pandemic. I think there's a lot of people still in kind of the Stockholm syndrome phase of it because of just the sheer lockdowns have created like the state of discomfort. You're put in this harsh situation, then you come out, then you put back into the harsh situation, then you come out, and you put back into the harsh situation and come out, and because it's such a rattling curse, and you never got really the full chance to recover from the first one or the second one or the third one. It's easy to get trying to trap in that little ball. But again, some people are, and I think some people are still in that point of view. I could be wrong. You're the psychologist. I could be totally off my gourd here.
No, I agree with you. Some people are. It's all right. So where I am in Florida, things have been very different in Florida than they have been in a lot of other parts of the world and even a lot of other parts of the country. So we were in lockdown when everybody went into lockdown last year, but our lockdown was lifted in, I believe it was May, like earlier, mid-May, because I remember my wife and I were actually were going out like last year, mid-May. So I haven't seen patients down here unless they came from another state or another country who have been in lockdown for that long a period of time, right? So, and I see the difference in cognition and psychology or detriment to the psychology different between people who have been here and haven't gone through that whole COVID quarantine for such a long and extended period of time. And then people who are kind of like just came to Florida and need help to get back into reality and just live in daily life because they've been in quarantine for such a long period of time.
If this is too strong a word, just let me know. If I were to describe it a little bit as like a form of menticide, is that too strong or is that accurate?
Say that again, the word again?
Menticide.
Ooh. Yeah, I would say you're kind of accurate on that. I can see how that bodes well, where it's related to what we're talking about. Yeah. It's, some people have a lot more difficulty being isolated than other people. Mm-hmm. You get an extrovert out there, they need this, that communication, they need to be outside and have that interaction with people. And when they're forced to stay inside without that interaction, you'll see some unfortunate, harsh detriments on their psychological functioning, whereas people like, what's funny is that I'm a writer and I'm more of an introvert than an extrovert, and I could stay home all friggin' day and never even talk to any single person out there without a problem. But that's me, and that's not every single person that exists out there. So your extroverts, I think, are the people who have had the hardest time with being locked up and all the regulations and rules and all that crap that is being put out there. They're having a very difficult time with it.
Yeah. No, I'm just asking because obviously, I'm a curious guy, so I've been looking at this from a lot of different angles, and I almost never look at things from what's presented to me in front. I always think of it like as a magician's trick, right? This looks like super pretty and sharp, and then when you look underneath, it's like you see like nothing there, and I'm like, oh, I'm being hoodwinked, and and that's not always the case, mind you. But it's just one of those things where I've never been one of those people to be satisfied with what's been presented in front of me. Because never in my life have I ever seen what's presented in front of me be the full truth. So I always tend to look more and more. So I always get curious about some things. Some things I know I'm like, I'm off my rocker. Some things I'm like, I wonder, right? So
Doesn't mean you're off your rocker. You could just be a mad Einstein type of genius too, man.
Yeah.
So I was raised to always question everything, especially government officials.
Oh yeah. No.
I came from a different type of world, right? But I was always taught, don't trust politicians; they're corrupt as shit. So that philosophy still stays with me today. And then you look around, and I'm like, holy cow, man! What they're saying this, but they're doing this, saying this and doing that.
Well, yeah.
That scares the hell out of me.
Well, I always pay attention to that. Like, I always look at what's done, not necessarily what is said, and that tells me everything I need to know. And once I see that, it kind of just it hits a certain way, and then it's like, okay. Sometimes it's like, okay, this is what's going on, cool. Sometimes this is what's going on, and I feel lied to, and that's it's always a very very tricky line because again, once you feel that way, you don't listen to certain things anymore, and sometimes you still should, but
Yeah, I always say do your own research, and usually the story that you get out there is like 20% of the story or less. Exactly what you said. It's not what they're saying per se, it's what they're not saying, what they're not letting you know. Right. Mm-hmm. So you gotta have the intrigue, at least the itch in yourself to say, let me look into this a little bit further. Let me not take anything at face value and do my own research and like look at everything that's out there so I can make the best decision for myself.
And that's basically the lesson, folks. We're not saying there's a conspiracy theory out there. Yeah. It makes it seem like it sounds like what we're saying is no matter what, question everything, including the people we're having this conversation right now.
Yes.
Because
great. I tell my kids the same thing. Listen, don't even believe me. I want you to go and do your own research.
Yeah, because honestly, I'm just talking on a podcast. I don't know shit, and that's exactly the truth. Find your own answers, whatever those answers may be for you. But going full circle here, because we've gotten to some big stuff and we've gone all over the deep end for like love and peace and slaying dragons. Now we gotta go back to your monsters again because your books are Golem's coming out in a few days, man. So obviously you're excited about it.
I am very excited.
So
it's great to get that book out there. I've been working on this book for years. When I started writing it, I can't even tell you at this point. We're in 2021, probably 2019, maybe even early or late 2018 is when I started writing it. So it's been that long, huge journey and quite satisfying. I just spent the month of September doing the final proofread, going through there and, of course, it's cheek, not check. And that E looks like a C, and you think it said cheek, and you probably read that manuscript probably 20, 30 times, but still all of a sudden you pop it out, right, in the friggin' proofread, check, not cheek, right? So you got to fix that. Like those little things, right? It's like, how did I missed it? Editors have missed it. Beta readers have missed it. Everybody missed friggin' that it was check and not cheek. Because makes me crazy.
Well, there's no such thing as a perfect book, man. There's just there's no such thing. Like you got like, especially a book that big.
Yeah.
Right. You're just gonna. So the way I do it, and it's totally shit. I hate it because it's such a pain in the ass to do. I read it backwards. You can't get the story if you read it backwards. You just can't.
It does come out. That's what I was doing with the proofread. That's how I caught it. It's like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah. No. Obviously, because it's your book and it's your baby, no matter what you do, you're never going to catch it all. Like, you have to accept it. Is this the best I can do at this moment in time? And if the answer is yes, you shrug. And then when the reader goes, you do not spell tomato with a Q. I did not do that. Good luck.
Son of a bitch. Let it go, Like the book is written, it's out there, it's published. Let it go. Be happy.
Yeah.
Typos are sneaky. That's how they get through. They are.
It's the worst. It's the worst thing because you will not you will recognize that and you'll be like, oh.
Yeah.
My all-time favorite television commercial. My all-time favorite one. I remember this one from it's a Snickers commercial. But my favorite is this guy is painting the football thing, and it's like he did a great job. And the guy at the Kansas City Chiefs looks at him and goes, "Hey, that's great, but who are the chefs?" Looks up.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
In the
yeah,
end zone.
you look at that and you're like, "Great, because you can't fix it now. You're done." Right?
Let it go.
It's
Too
like,
funny, man.
and he's just eating his Snickers. It's like it's like, how did I do that? But it's human. We
Yes,
all
it is.
screw up. And
That is a fact.
But you know what? Sometimes screw ups are not mistakes. The greatest screw up in the universe was chocolate chip cookies. Maybe stick 'em nuts. You make a decision on that. You can make a decision on which one. But anyway, dude, good luck. I really hope it goes well. And obviously, folks, Paul is the sponsor. So for the month, he's going to be sponsoring this show for actually a little while because he's got a few books coming out. Right.
Yeah.
So
we got volume 2 of The Rose in December. So
you're gonna see it. So starting tomorrow, actually, I'll be promoting Golem on a regular basis, but obviously we're going to be doing that tonight because Paul is the guest and we got to actually do the official pitch. But I just wanted to say before we begin, Paul, thanks for doing this. And also, we'll just say it now, before The Rose comes out, you need to come back again.
Nice. Thank you. Yeah, that'll be fantastic. We'll do like a holiday one in December.
Yeah, it sounds like a plan. Like you'll be one of my last ones wherever I happen to be at that point. That will be like we'll do it. But since I think we have an interview here, Paul, what do you think?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So why don't you again mention the book and how people can find you?
Okay, so the book is Gollum. It's a psychological horror novel. It's my monster book. Takes place in the late 1940s, early 1950s New York. And it follows John Ashton, who is a World War II war hero. He's been a flat-foot cop. He just got promoted to detective in the missing persons unit of the NYPD. He has to go. His only lead, his first case, is to find the DA's missing daughter. She's been missing for 2 years. His only lead is Alina Francone. She's the high society sculptor and socialite we talked about earlier, and she has been committed to Bellevue Psychiatric Facility for 6 months. So when he goes to question her about the missing daughter, she tells him the story of Gollum and that the daughter is now one of Gollum's minions. And then Alina's story takes place in 1947, and then everything gets wrapped up in 1951. That is my Gollum. Comes out on Tuesday. It's on Amazon right now. You can pre-order it. I just uploaded the paperback to Amazon. That'll probably come out tomorrow. It usually takes them about a day. Hardcovers will be available on October 5th, and also hardcovers across like Barnes & Noble, all major book buying outlets.
Awesome. And if people want to just talk to you for the sake of talking to you, where can they find you?
All right. Best way to find me, go to pdalleva.com. All right. Sign up for my newsletter. I send that out once a month. So that always has little tidbits, great stuff there. And then, all right. So if you like free books and you like book clubs, go to Facebook, type in PD Alleva's Book Club. All right, you'll see my Facebook group there. It's actually called PD Alleva's Alternative Fiction Reader Group and Book Club. You don't have to type all that in. I'm sure PD Alleva's Book Club will suffice for Facebook's algorithm. Go and join the group. So we're reading Gollum right now. Obviously, that's was wrapping up this week. But then we're going to be reading The Rose Volume 1 in, say, like mid to late October, followed immediately by The Rose Volume 2.
Yeah, sounds really, really cool.
Yeah.
And that, folks, is that. So first things first, go check out my sponsor, Paul Alleva. Check out his book, Golem, October 5th. Second, if you want to support this podcast, and thanks for listening to this podcast, support it a bunch of different ways. Hit the like, follow button on Twitch, twitch.tv/JustJoshing YouTube channel is Joshua Pentelarusco. Hit the like, subscribe, enable notifications there. My book, Alice Zero, is nominated for the Elgin Award this year. You can definitely look on it on Amazon right now. Alice 1 is tentatively scheduled for November 1st. I think it's going to be closer to December 1st. Stay tuned. In a couple weeks, I'll know for sure. The book is practically done. It's not that. It's more logistics for some things for me. But once that's all taken care of, it will be out. It is going to be a rock and sock'em. I hope you guys like Croquet with the Underworld. Stay inspired. Keep shining in the dark. Tomorrow, Lee F. Patrick joins the show. It's going to be a good one. Have yourselves a great night, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Thank you. Bye-bye.